He built an empire with his life's blood. But after his death, the throne became a battlefield for his own sons. This is the story of the great betrayal, how Saladin's heirs tore apart everything he built in a brutal war of brother against brother. The conqueror's greatest failure was his own family. Damascus, 1193. The mourning period ended. Saladin, who united an empire and reclaimed Jerusalem, was gone. Now his eldest son, Al-Afdal, sat on his father's throne, surrounded by emirs whose loyalty was to the conqueror, not the boy who inherited his crown. Cairo, 1193. While his elder brother faltered in Damascus, Saladin's second son, Al-Aziz Uthman, ruled Egypt from his father's old palace. He did not see himself as a mere governor, but as the true heir to a kingdom. Here, surrounded by the wealth of the Nile, he began to forge his own destiny.
We refuse to send the annual tribute. Egypt is now an independent realm.
A letter arrives from Cairo. Al-Aziz refuses to send the annual tribute, declaring Egypt an independent realm. The insult is deliberate, the challenge clear. The court watching his reaction, their respect is already slipping.
Do not start a war you cannot win, nephew. A divided house falls to outsiders.
Al-Adil, their uncle, advises patience. Do not start a war you cannot win, nephew. A divided house falls to outsiders. But Al-Afdal's young advisors whisper of weakness and demand action. Against all wisdom, Al-Afdal musters the Syrian army and marches toward Egypt. It is not to reunite the empire, but to punish his brother and prove his own strength. The army moves, but without the unified purpose of Saladin's campaigns. Al-Afdal looking back at Damascus, already unsure. The brothers meet at Bilbeis. Their armies face each other, Ayyubid banners fighting Ayyubid banners. Before the clash, Al-Adil rides furiously between the lines, forcing a parley.
Hold your ground! This is madness! We are brothers! We will have a parley now!
Al-Adil brokers a hollow peace. Al-Aziz will pay lip service to Damascus, but keep real power in Egypt. No one is satisfied. It is only a pause. Al-Aziz's smug smile, Al-Afdal's relieved but defeated slump. In the rugged north, far from the strife of Damascus and Cairo, Salahuddin's third son, Az-Zahir Ghazi, secured his inheritance. Aleppo was not the richest city, but it was a fortress, and Az-Zahir was not a conqueror like his father, but a patient builder watching the storms of his brother's war from behind unbreachable walls. Az-Zahir watches reports of his brother's folly. He quietly strengthens his forts and marries a powerful local princess, weaving his own web of security. He chooses to build a kingdom, not burn one down. His quiet, strategic focus, the true heir to his father's intelligence.
This section here, reinforce it immediately. I want that tower secured before nightfall.
Back in Damascus, Al-Afdal's rule crumbles.
The court's expenditures are vast. Therefore, a temporary increase in the levies is required to maintain the splendor of Damascus.
He raises taxes for his lavish court, alienating the very emirs who supported him. A conspiracy forms, led by his own ministers. Emirs whispering in corridors as Al-Afdal indulges in a feast. The moment a trusted vizier's eyes turn cold and disloyal. The conspirators strike at night, seizing the citadel. Al-Afdal is captured in his bedchamber, bewildered and betrayed. They don't kill him. They send him into comfortable exile, a king deposed by his own servants. Al-Afdal in a simple robe, being led out of his palace at dawn. His utter childlike confusion. He never understood the game. With Damascus in chaos, Al-Aziz sees his chance. He marches from Egypt not to restore his brother, but to claim the throne for himself. The civil war begins in earnest. Egyptian banners crossing into Syria. Al-Aziz's triumphant ambition. He believes his time has come. Al-Adil watches from his stronghold. He has tried to be the peacemaker for years. Now, seeing his nephews tear the empire to shreds, he makes a fateful choice. If they cannot rule, he will, the resolve hardening in his eyes. Patience has run out. Al-Aziz lays siege to his father's capital, but the defenders, loyal to Saladin's memory, if not his son's, resist fiercely. The siege bogs down. Egyptian troops assaulting the walls of Damascus, the irony of Saladin's own fortifications being used against his son.
This treaty secures the stability we all crave. Together, we shall restore the glory days of my brother, Saladin.
Al-Adil moves. He forms a secret pact with the disgruntled emirs inside Damascus and the commanders in Al-Aziz's camp who fear his arrogance. He promises stability and the glory days of Saladin. Messengers moving between tents and citadel under cover of night. Al-Adil as the master chess player, moving pieces his nephews don't see. The gates of Damascus open, not to Al-Aziz, but to Al-Adil. At the same time, key regiments in Al-Aziz's army defect. The would-be conqueror finds himself isolated and outmaneuvered, Al-Adil riding into Damascus peacefully as Al-Aziz watches in fury from his camp. Al-Aziz's rage turning to shock, then to fear.
We swear our allegiance, Sultan.
I accept the trust plawl in me. We shall govern with justice.
1196. The emirs and scholars of Damascus pledge allegiance to Al-Adil. He is crowned Sultan. The brother has taken the throne from the sons, not by brute force, but by political mastery and universal exhaustion with chaos. Al-Adil receiving the oath of loyalty, a simple ceremony compared to Saladin's. Not triumph, but solemn duty on Al-Adil's face. This is a burden, not a prize. Humiliated, Al-Aziz retreats to Egypt and plans a final massive counterattack. But during a hunting accident, or perhaps an arranged accident, he is thrown from his horse and dies. A riderless horse returning to camp. The suspicious silence that follows the news, whispers of Al-Adil's hand spread.
By the grace of God, Syria and Egypt are reunited. To the veterans of my brother,
With Al-Aziz dead, Al-Adil marches into Cairo unopposed. He secures the loyalty of the Egyptian army by honoring Saladin's veterans and confirming their lands. He completes what his nephews could not. He reunites Syria and Egypt, but under his own rule. Al-Adil praying in Saladin's old mosque in Cairo. The ghost of Saladin finally at peace as his competent brother secures his legacy. Az-Zahir in Aleppo observes all this. He sends a letter of cautious congratulations to his uncle. He does not submit, but he does not challenge. He is granted formal recognition of his rule. A quiet partition is accepted. His satisfaction at having secured his own kingdom through intelligence, not war. Al-Afdal, the first heir, lives out his days in obscure exile, occasionally plotting comebacks that go nowhere. He dies forgotten, a footnote in his father's story, the profound tragedy of wasted inheritance.
The granary reports are encouraging. Distribute the surplus grain to the northern provinces before winter arrives. Ensure the trade routes to the south are secure. We must prioritize the flow of goods into the city.
Sultan Al-Adil proves a capable, if less inspiring, ruler. He maintains the peace, repairs the economy, and holds the Crusader remnants at bay through shrewd treaties. The empire is stable, but the fiery unity of Saladin's jihad is gone.
We must insist on control of the Tripoli corridor.
Very well. But the caravan routes must remain open to all. We have an agreement.
Al-Adil negotiating with a Crusader envoy, not on a battlefield, but in a lavish tent. Administration replacing inspiration. Al-Adil installs his own sons as governors, creating a new Ayyubid dynasty, one of his own line. Saladin's direct sons are sidelined. The legacy has been successfully hijacked, Al-Adil's confident sons taking up positions of power. The cyclical nature of power, nephews displaced by uncles, now sons securing their future. The Crusaders, seeing the Ayyubids preoccupied with internal strife, regain strength. Crusader ships swarming a coastal castle. The consequence of division, lost momentum. They retake key ports. The constant pressure that Saladin managed is now a persistent drain. In the Far East, a new storm gathers. Reports reach Damascus of a terrifying force sweeping through Asia, the Mongols. A threat Saladin never imagined now looms over the empire his family squabbled over. A stark, chilling map showing the Mongol advance, the pettiness of the civil war seen in the light of a coming apocalypse. Az-Zahir dies peacefully in Aleppo, leaving a stable and prosperous principality to his son Al-Aziz Muhammad ibn Az-Zahir. He is the only one of Saladin's sons who built something lasting by understanding his limits. Az-Zahir's son inheriting a peaceful, fortified city, a small, successful branch of the family tree. Sultan Al-Adil, the great consolidator, dies of old age in 1218. His passing triggers another, smaller round of succession struggles among his many sons. A state funeral, grand but lacking the universal grief of Saladin's. History repeating itself, but on a diminished scale. The great Ayyubid Empire is now permanently a constellation of rival sultanates in Damascus, Cairo, Aleppo, and elsewhere. They cooperate only when facing an external threat like the Crusaders or the rising Khwarezmians. The final accepted reality of division. Facing the existential threat of the Fifth Crusade, the Ayyubid factions briefly unite under Sultan Al-Kamil of Egypt, Al-Adil's son. They defeat the invaders, proving they can still cooperate when survival is at stake. The Ayyubid armies from different cities fighting side by side, the fleeting ghost of Saladin's unity in a moment of crisis. In 1244, internal Ayyubid rivalries go too far. One faction invites a terrifying new power, the Khwarezmian Turks, to attack Jerusalem. They sack the holy city, undoing Saladin's peaceful conquest in a bloodbath. The horror of Jerusalem being sacked not by Crusaders but by mercenaries invited by Saladin's grandsons, the ultimate betrayal of Saladin's legacy by his own descendants. Weakened by endless family wars, the Ayyubid dynasties cannot withstand the next wave. In 1250, Mamluks, slave soldiers originally bought by Al-Salih Ayyub, overthrow their master in Egypt. The Ayyubid rule in the heart of the empire ends not with a bang, but a coup. Mamluk soldiers seizing the citadel of Cairo. The irony, the dynasty falls to the very instruments of power it created. By 1260, the Ayyubids are gone, swept away by Mamluks and Mongols. All that remains is the echo of a name, Saladin. The empire he built died with his son's jealousy, but the legend of the man who united it, who showed mercy in Jerusalem, grew larger than any kingdom. His true legacy was not land, but a story that outlasted his bloodline. He built an empire with a unity of purpose that shook the world. But the poison of ambition ran in the family blood. His sons did not inherit his vision, only his throne. They shattered his life's work into a dozen quarreling kingdoms, proving that a dynasty can be conquered from within long before any enemy arrives at the gates. The legacy of Saladin was not lost on a battlefield. It was picked apart in palace corridors by his own flesh and blood. But history's wheel never stops turning. From the ashes of this family civil war, a new, terrifying power was quietly being forged in the very heart of the empire. Not by princes, but by slaves. Subscribe to Amoura Stories and hit the bell icon. Our next saga is The Slave Sultans, Al-Mu'azzam Isa, The Rise of the Mamluks. Discover how the elite slave soldiers bought by Sultan al-Salih Ayyub saw their master's weakness, seized their moment, and overthrew an empire to become one of history's most formidable military powers. From the banks of the Nile, they would face the greatest storm the world had ever seen, the Mongol Empire.